Very good morning and good afternoon to everyone joining for us this webinar today. We are going to have a panel discussion on the topic of driving operational efficiency and sustainable growth by leveraging digital EHS solutions. My name is Nubil Ansari and I would be the moderator for this panel discussion. Together with an esteemed set of panelists, we will explore how health, safety and environmental related requirements are increasingly becoming important, the impact of new age technologies on these requirements, and how companies can now achieve compliance and deliver tangible business outcomes with digital HSE solutions. We will spend 45 minutes for the panel discussion, and towards the end, we will take up the questions. I request all attendees to put down their questions in the Q&A panel of the GoToWebinar control panel. So let me start with the introduction of the panelists. We have three eminent panelists with years of experience in HSE domain. My first panelist is Christian Polvika. Christian has over 2 decades of experience in the area of EHS. He has been with SAP for over a decade now and is presently leading the strategy and go-to-market for SAP EHS solutions globally. Good morning, Christian, and welcome to the panel discussion.
Good morning.
The second panelist is Amar Jadhav. Amar is based in Mumbai and he works as an innovation architect with SAP. In the last 10 years for which he has been working with SAP, he was part of many large engagements in the EHS area. And in the current role, he is responsible for helping customers innovate their business processes with latest digital technologies and solutions. Welcome, Amar.
Thank you, Nabil, and good morning to all.
Good morning. Our third and the last panelist is Yogesh Nagpal from YASH Technologies. Yogesh is the head of Global EHS Center of Excellence at YASH. He has over 2 decades of experience in the EHS area. And as a transformation leader in his current role, he helps global clients in building their strategic EHS and sustainability roadmap and integrated digital solutions. Good to have you, Yogesh, and welcome to the panel discussion.
Thank you, Nabil. Good morning, good afternoon to everybody who has joined this roundtable session with us. Looking forward.
Okay, so HSE, as we all understand, has been a very important topic for all the organizations, and the relative importance varies depending upon the organization and industry. But what we have seen in the last at least 1.5 years, and especially after COVID, that the scrutiny on HSE and specifically on safety at workplace and the safety of employees has increased manifold. In fact, another key parameter which is bringing HSE to the fore of many discussions is the whole focus on sustainability. There is a renewed focus on sustainability, and every organization that we are speaking today has some kind of a sustainability measurements in place. Together with EHS and sustainability, now EHS as a topic is becoming a boardroom discussion, and we are increasingly seeing policies being framed up by companies to manage their EHS and sustainability requirements. It is in this regard that it becomes very important to look at what kind of digital solutions companies can look at and the value that these digital solutions can deliver to the organizations. So let's try to understand these nuances and these inputs from the panel members. And I'll begin with my first question to Amar. And since Amar has been interacting a lot with the customers, Amar, my question would be that you have had multiple engagements with many clients in India, and you continue to engage with them on this topic. So what are some of the top priorities and expectations that you are listening from them when it comes to HSE area?
Yeah, sure, Nabil. Thanks for that question. And this is a very relevant question in today's time. In fact, you highlighted that customers or organizations are now putting a lot of emphasis on not only EHS but the overall sustainability as a business area. And when we say sustainability, it is cutting across your environmental, social, and the governance factors. So nowadays, companies are not only being rated by their financial performance, but also by their EHS and the ESG performance as well. Some of the things that I have heard from our customers or the organizations that I have opportunity to work with, they look at these opportunities as, let's say, a trigger which is both internal and an external. So when we say internal, let's say a production company or a manufacturing company wants to reduce their energy footprint or the carbon footprint, which will ultimately result into cost of production getting down. So that's the kind of an internal trigger that we're talking about. An external trigger are driven by other stakeholders like customers. For example, customers are demanding their suppliers to be more sustainable in their operations. Similarly, regulatory aspects. In India, we have regulations around, let's say, occupational health related requirements that the companies have to fulfill, or environment footprints related regulations like Central Environment Pollution Control Board have given permit to organizations to only emit certain percentage of SOx, NOx, or SPM from their operations. Similarly, some of the organizations have also set up some ambitious goal to become carbon neutral. So more and more of their energies is from the renewable sources rather than these conventional sources. There are also a lot of emphasis on how do we leverage some of these new age technologies in changing the way they do their business or go about carrying out their business processes. For example, process industries. What I've heard, there are these, I would say, not very frequent instances, but there are, let's say once in a while instance of process safety incident or a process safety near miss. And these equipments which are very, very safety critical, if there is any containment loss because of equipment malfunction, it may result into these process safety incident or near miss. So now organizations are talking about how can we remotely monitor these safety critical equipment and even predict that there would be a near miss or a process safety incident, and how can they proactively be ready for it. So there are such such requirements that I have heard from our customers, and I see there's a lot of emphasis on the way organizations are today manage their EHS and sustainability performance, as well as the overall requirements from the business standpoint.
Those were, I think, I like the way you actually highlighted the three levers, so the internal, the external, and then within external, you talked about the customer side and then the regulatory side. So I think this is important to understand that it's not only about organizations themselves deciding to look at EHS and sustainability in more strategic manner, but the ecosystem and the impact that the ecosystem, their customer, their suppliers, the regulatory bodies to whom they are responsible for, they are also now putting more and more stress on being sustainable, being compliant, and and I think that's one big lever that's forcing organizations to look sustainability in EHS in a more holistic and comprehensive manner. So thank you for those inputs, Amar. Krishan, you have seen this market across different geographies, and you have also looked at the evolution of this EHS domain over a period of time. What has been your experience? Do you also believe something similar that Amar has seen in Indian market, or are there other trends that we are seeing, or the priorities that customers are asking us when it comes to sustainability and EHS?
Yes, and thank you for this question. I actually believe Amar gave a pretty good overview, if he said from an Indian perspective, but I'm seeing actually similar trends on a global scale as well. One thing which I really wanted to emphasize and draw your attention to, being in that domain for more than 20 years, having been a safety and environmental engineer in manufacturing industries before my career at SAP, I mean, there have been times HSE was just looked at as a cost center, and the reputation in the companies was not always glory and good as such. So with the current movement, what I can see started maybe 24 months ago. In the last 2 years, and Amara also mentioned the term ESG, environmental social governance. This is a term which is really coined by the investors community. And this is what I really wanted to emphasize again, because that is making so much of a difference. So investors are now ranking companies on their sustainability performance. And based on that performance, these companies will get access to capital. So sustainability, having been 10 years ago more of an intangible, often even a marketing topic. So this is now getting really substantial. And if we look now at HSE within that context, in certain industries, I would claim 70–80% of the sustainability data which are needed for disclosure are coming from HSE processes. So that makes it pretty clear why EHS is so fundamental, important within this current movement and within these discussions.
So that's a very interesting perspective, Christian, and the whole thought of ESG reporting and ESG compliance also impacting the way organizations go in the market and raise capital. So the overall, I think stakeholders' expectations, the market expectations, I think shareholders in the market also now looking at companies from a sustainability lens. And then you rightly pointed out, it's not a right topic any longer, and it's a topic which is of very high relevance for companies, and it is becoming just like any core process of manufacturing or supply chain that a company undertakes. So in that regards, Christian, I would be keen to understand that given this change and importance that now sustainability and EHS is getting, how is SAP gearing up to support its customer to comply with these new regulations or to be ahead on the sustainability? What is our roadmap? What is the strategy that SAP is executing on?
Yes, yeah, sure. It's actually along the lines of what you just started. There's a bottom line, there's a top line, and we introduced now kind of a green line. So really embedding sustainability. Within SAP, we have this intelligent enterprise, and our leadership has decided to bring sustainability into the core of that. And this is founded and backed up with fundamental massive investment in this area. So we have certain areas where we are now launching new products this year. So EHS applications, we have a strong history, long heritage, and we are building on those. But we also see new trends, and SAP is embracing on that. For example, there is a new trend to calculate and disclose product footprints and even communicate that in the value chain. So we will have a new product on that, which will even allow to calculate the footprints and bring them into the different line of business applications within SAP. So really embedding carbon as a new dimension in S4 so that the purchase manager sees what is the actual carbon impact based on his decisions, and that he can not just on monetary level change his direction, but even on a sustainability level. And there's one thing, even next week we have a sustainability summit, and I provided the team a one-pager on that. This is really something I just can invite all of the attendees and the listeners, because there we will basically introduce how we look at new areas in sustainability and how SAP will support those. So the event will be 2 days, one focusing on climate action and the second day focusing on circular economy. And this is also representing the 2 main areas where we are new investing.
Yeah, thanks, Christian. That concept of green line, instead of in addition to top line and bottom line, is an interesting way you have put up the whole focus of sustainability. And I believe that now SAP is not only looking at providing sustainability as add-on solutions on top of the existing application, but really embedding the sustainability element into the existing processes. So for an organization which wish to disclose their carbon footprint, it's not about calculating the carbon footprint outside in a separate system, but really making the existing applications be able to capture that information, then translate into the way they want to publish into their sustainability reporting or disclose to the regulator. So that's an interesting shift in terms of looking sustainability as a core part of the applications, and then supporting it with the necessary reporting and regulatory filing point of view. So this is an interesting way we are going into the discussion. We understand that now clients are looking for many things beyond EHS, and we also understand that SAP is trying to gear up to support these things with a whole new set of solutions. Let me also bring one more element here, and this is an interesting element in all the conversations today we have when we talk about technology. And this element is the use of digital and new age technology elements. So we do hear IoT, we do hear machine learning, and I'm keen to understand from my panelists that what is the impact that these digital technologies are bringing on EHS applications or EHS solutions. Are we also seeing a trend where companies are looking to invest into new age technologies more from a HSE perspective also? So are there use cases around it? So let's try to dig a little deeper and take some inputs from the panelists on this topic. So Amar, if I come back to you, you are part of the innovation team and you have a charter to help customers get value out of the digital technologies. Now, if you put this perspective and your earlier perspective of also leading EHS engagements, what in your experience are some of the areas where digital technologies can benefit from an EHS perspective, and also cover some of the use cases that you may have seen and where customers are trying to leverage digital technologies from a HSE and EHS compliance point of view?
Yeah, sure, Nabil. So this is very close to my heart. I've been working on these areas for long now, and have some understanding, if not everything that I know about this. But I can share some of my thoughts, some of my learnings, as well as experience that I had working with customer. So, I mean, if you look at digital technologies, and we are talking about Internet of Things, machine learning, edge computing, and then the cloud computing. I mean, these are all buzzwords that we hear every now and then. But importantly, how customers can benefit by applying these technology in their business context is an important thing. And here we are talking about a business context when it comes to environment, health, and safety management processes, or even overall sustainability related objectives. And I give you a couple of examples of what at least I have seen from applying this technology into the business context. So the first one is from the cement manufacturing company. They manufacture the cement. One of the raw material for the cement is clinker, and basically this particular customer or organization wants to actually produce this clinker at the lower cost, and significant portion of this cost is an energy cost, which is the electricity as well as coal. What they are talking about is, can we look at the raw material quality parameter data? Can we look at the historical clinker output data, and also the process parameters set for clinker operation, and come out with a model which can tell us that, okay, to produce the particular grade of clinker, you should operate the kiln at a particular operating at a particular operating condition, and for that certain process parameter you should maintain, which will optimize your energy consumption without compromising on the throughput. So that's what they're talking about, using technology to reduce their energy consumption and thus the carbon footprint without impacting the production output and the quality. So that was the first example. The second example, again, I'll go back to the example I gave in the beginning around the process safety management, where we are talking about certain process safety critical equipment. Now, organizations go about assessing their risk when it comes to the process safety through processes like HAZOP, where they know, okay, these are the nodes, these are the deviations in these nodes, and if this deviation occurs, what would be the risk on the overall operations and how it can be mitigated. Now, this information typically sitting in some HAZOP study, but then let's say if we combine this information with the real-time IoT data, which we are now acquiring from the process safety critical equipment, we can not only predict that when the process safety incident is going to occur, but as well as bring the business context data like HAZOP data also together along with the process safety alert or a predictive process safety alert that this would be the impact if this incident occurs, and these are the corrective preventive actions or recommendation that you should follow to avoid these kind of let's say further aggravating the situation. So that is the second example. The third example is a wearable where may be applicable for industries where the workers are working in a very remote places like oil and gas or mining, and maybe they need to be administered, they need to be monitored for their health condition and also the environment in which they operate. So today organizations are talking about giving them a wearable device which not only monitors the vital signs of their health but also the environment in which they work, and thus they have the real-time information about whether an employee needs an immediate attention or not, and thus improving the overall safety of the workforce. There are other examples like another on the same line on the worker safety standpoint. In the manufacturing plant, for example, there are plants or areas where it is not always advisable to send employees for a physical inspection because there are a lot of hazardous conditions in which these processes are being managed. An employee may have some health related issue if they are sent very regularly. So can the AR and VR technology and digital twin technologies can be used to actually replicate the physical operation in a virtual world and have an information overlaid on top, which is about the condition of the asset or certain other parameters that are being otherwise inspected manually to avoid going to that site and thus improve the overall safety performance. So there are such examples that I have come across where customers are talking about adopting these technologies in their business context, ultimately to achieve the business outcome, which is to do with reducing the carbon footprint or improving the worker safety, or maybe reducing the overall environmental impact that their operations are actually resulting into. So these are some of the examples that I could think of.
And I think I like the way you relate it to business context, saying that the digital solutions in EHS also should be looked at from business context point of view. So it should be in that process, in that area, or in that function, we should look at the use of digital solutions. And also the fact that at the end of the day, we are looking for outcomes, right? Whether it is from smart worker, we are looking for a more proactive response to any untoward incident, or the HAZOP example that you said, which is again a proactive safety mechanism wherein you are able to look at some process parameters and in a position to at least deduce if there is a potential issue or that we can anticipate from a safety and hazards point of view. So these are, I think, good examples, and I'm sure these are all just few examples. There are many that companies are really looking at it, and they're building, their roadmap in terms of how do they want to embed digital technologies in their HSE and sustainability journey. So these are good thoughts to move forward. Yogesh, I see you have been quiet for some time, but I'll now come back to you. I think with some very very important perspective. So what we heard till now, is more in terms of what is possible and what companies are really prioritizing from their perspective, and the whole whole importance of HSE and sustainability. Now, since you come from YASH Technologies, where you have done lots and lots of implementation in this area, You have been leading this practice for more than multiple years. I would like to now get some real specifics in terms of, tell us what has been your experience in driving some of these projects with your customers, and how do you see the outcomes have been delivered. Tell us with some examples, what kind of business outcomes you have been able to deliver through EHS, and bring some more specifics to this discussion with your experience of working with the client. So Yogesh, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Nabil. And as you mentioned, in fact, I have been hearing both my panelists, Christian and Amar, explaining about how the trend is going towards asking more and more from the system and delivering business outcomes. I remember 2003, 2004, when we were doing our first project with Chemtura. The project was more about managing the data into a centralized repository. I think we have seen a shift. We went to another project in 2007 and 8 with ONGC, where they were talking about managing, again, a lot of health and safety data, injury statistics data, occupational health related records into the SAP system. So it was still being talked about data being managed into a central repository. While over the last, I think, as we have seen the transformation, the customers, and I'll not even say customers, in fact, those three things which I mentioned, internal, and from external, it is our customers and our regulatory. The expectation from all different direction is to kind of say give them information at the fingertips, which helps them quick decision making. I'll rather speak about, again, an interesting case study, the project which we have delivered again to a sizable company over here. You see, this company is a world's leading medical technology company. They are more into orthopedics and then medical and surgical equipment manufacturing, neurological, the spine and spine related products which they manufacture. A pretty global company with around 20,000+ people spread across the globe, around 40 offices spread across 12 countries. So with this kind of a vast spread of the organization and the number of people being on board, they were using multiple EHS systems. I'm talking about year 2016 and 17 when we started talking to them about a solution. One of the first expectation was to standardize and harmonize the operations or the processes. So in Europe, there is something else which is being used. If I talk about China, China has its own set of operations, and the way, again, the plants manage the incident, accident data, the audit trails. The company, the company was growing into multi-folds with acquisition. The company wanted to go for all their plants with 45,000 certifications. So there were some high expectation with which this program was laid together. When we rolled out this system, we implemented incident management, risk assessment, audit management, and environment management, pretty much the entire suite of EHS at this customer. And if I have to talk about the outcome, yes, the first outcome was standardizing the system. That's what we were able to do. Now, when this company has now, at this point of time, have around 45, 46 plants. The last plant, which was taken over somewhere, I think it is in Egypt or somewhere, they have taken a plant, and that they were able to roll out this new system in this plant within 3 weeks of time, because of we have a run book, we have a set of accelerators, we have the readiness check, and when they kind of say roll out of operations, the new system, they basically follow the entire procedure, and they can manage it completely within their in-house champion team, which has been created there. So the standardization aspect has already been built into this project, which they have accomplished as a whole. Other thing which I would like to mention is, you see on my top line here, the tagline, the company is able to reduce the reportable injuries to 15%, and that's a sizable number for any company. Again, all the experts, attendees who are there into this panel with me, into this event with me, would understand that reduction of one injury means a lot. And in this company, which was with around, as I said, 22,000 people, reducing 15% injuries within around 12 to 18 months of adopting this system was a significant achievement. And this was possible because we were able to build a safety culture, behavior-based safety program, where the safety observations were almost 300 times or 300% more than the previous year. So it was, again, a direct linkage between the observation being reported more audit outcomes or audit score being kind of say more kind of say acceptable and kind of more prominent, then which helps us reduce the number of injuries. Finally, this project also had an environmental aspect into it as well. So with this, all this energy consumption, Amar, I heard you saying usage of natural energies is becoming more and more important. How much waste minimization or energy conservation programs this organization is taking is a matrix which is being reported into your sustainability reports. So like any other mature and a global Fortune company, this company has its own direction of reducing waste by 10%, energy consumption towards the natural resources, reducing fuel and diesel by X percentage. All those data points were easily available. And now with this digital system on board, we were able to track, manage, and monitor this statistics, and that helps this company to improve their environmental rating. In US, we call it as CDP, Carbon Disclosure Program, rating from C negative to B. Again, a significant increase in 12 to 15 months of this program being rolled out. So again, I would like to summarize this case study by saying reduction in injury, which is definitely a key objective and key accomplishment, but usage of this application to build sustainable programs like, again, behavior-based safety, like talking about the visibility on the energy consumption and energy conservation programs, and then driving this 45,001 audit program across the sites with those standard checklists, helping them be proactively prepared for external audit. That actually kind of some of the key differentiator, and I will call it as the applications of leveraging this standard foundation layer. I do have certain reports and dashboard which we have created, not for this, but many other customers. I think if we go to the again in next view, this is I call it as my board view dashboard, in which we can probably see that the entire safety injury statistics on one page. While on top, you are able to see number of reportable injuries and the near misses and the observation count. Every graph has its own, I think, meaning in it. But the next graph, which is about safety observation trends, it is able to help us tell about how this graph, how this number of injuries and safety observations are kind of fluctuating. The increase in the number of safety observation, how does it decrease by the number of incident on a month-to-month basis? So again, if you go with the central piece, tells me about my injury rating. So we have also been able to map my reportable injuries to NAICS code here. So that's a standard and the industry code, that what is the trend of injuries in my industry of operation. So the two lines which you see on the left-hand side bottom graph over here, one line represent an NAICS benchmark, and then the internal benchmark. I can always set my own benchmark better than what I would like to be on industry. And this company, you are able to see that 7 out of the 9 facilities or 9 operations were in green beyond the expectation which they wanted to set as a benchmark for themselves. While 2 of them were the first 2, T&E and neurovascular instruments, these 2 divisions of this company, they were far better than the industry benchmark, but not from their, again, internal benchmarking. So this view tells which areas to focus upon, where there are the areas where we can improve the things, setting our own benchmarking, creating a correlation between incident and the observation. So these are some of the dashboard, I think, which again, I have another dashboard on, again, environment. I can take it up better. Nubil, do you have any questions so far, or would you like to add anything on this?
And I really like the way I think you have put together this thing, and in fact, the whole aspect of the business outcome of injury reduction, I think, which is a very tangible, element for any project. In fact, I want to check if Christian, you want to have a view here, because I want to bring one perspective, and I wanted to check if Christian can provide some thoughts over it. So one is, this particular project that Yogesh mentioned is a very comprehensive one, where you saw everything from an EHS point of view, which is getting covered. Now, tell us if, what should be the right approach for organizations? Should they go with everything in one go when it comes to HSE and sustainability, or is it you build this over a period of time by looking at one element first and then adding on other elements? I thought that's an interesting perspective that you can bring in based on your experience, and then that would be a good takeaway for many of our attendees also when they look at EHS projects as a whole for their organization.
Sure. What we see kind of a best practice, what is often done at our clients is our applications come with a foundation layer. So there are a lot of functionalities which are shared across the different health and safety, incident, and environmental applications. So that will anyhow be established in the first place, like task management or workflow engines or the analytics. And then kind of the next steps is often driven by the companies themselves. What is their individual agenda? Where do they see most impact? A lot of companies start with incident management or safety observations. That's a quick win usually. But I've also seen a bit of a shift. Proactive risk assessment is getting also more and more popular to be started with. So it really depends on the individual agenda, regulatory drivers in the region for the industry.
Okay, that's a good thought, Christian, and I think that's how companies should also look at, because many times I've seen questions whether we should do everything, whether we should focus on few things. So it's not a yes or no answer, but definitely there are all the options available. It depends upon the maturity, it depends upon the industry segment or the regulatory framework in which the company is. And then accordingly, we can look at it. So with that insight, I think, Yogesh, I want to come back to you again. You heard Amar talked about earlier about some digital interventions in EHS. He mentioned about the whole HAZOP. He mentioned about the the clinker production example for a cement manufacturer. He also talked about the smart worker. Now, in your engagements with the client, are you also witnessing something similar, or there are additional things that you are also witnessing as requirements from the customers? If you can throw some lights and highlight to us some of these areas that you are also discussing with the customer.
Sure. So Nabil, I think I will pick up this word from Christian when he said the foundation layer. In fact, I have seen many of my customers kind of as a building that foundation layer first and then probably going up from there. So I think, again, as we all know, this pandemic and COVID, which hit us in last year, the customers were definitely aware when it was a moment of, for most of the industries and most of the businesses to look back. For us, for EHS community, this was something like a war front. How do we kind of say, while with this lean team, we were kind of say running with this lean EHS team, we were running multiple things within the organization. This COVID came as kind of as an outburst of, again, the workforce, the activities, the tasks. Nobody was prepared for it. Again, some of our customers who are already leveraging this solution have been asking for new things from COVID. In fact, a couple of my use cases come from the same scenario. I would like to quickly talk about a quick COVID declaration program. So the health declaration program, which we kind of say integrated within the EHS system. So this was developed, I think, 7-8 months before. I'm not sure, some of the team members would remember we doing a similar event in June, July last year timeframe when we released this safe program called Safe at Work. At that point of time, the expectation from the businesses were to see that if whether I'm able to call back my people to work or not. Now, most of the people were impacted. Again, most of the people were, I think, worried about their health and they were not coming out. For people like us, we can always go back and work from home, but for the necessary operation, it was not always possible. Hence, we created this self-declaration form, which is a web form integrated closely with SAP. So every employee, we basically triggered the system triggers a form based upon the work shift arrangement. So if I'm expecting 20 people to join me in 2 weeks at my office because of their work shift or because of the kind of load planning, so this form will be triggered to them. They will fill this form. I will understand about their health considerations. All this kind of is a simple drop-down form, can be completed in less than 90 seconds. That's what is the time that we keep with all those 14-15 questions we have on board. And the outcome of this question is that it can either give you an immediate prompt saying that, okay, you can probably reach out to office where you will have an already marked green against your employee master, or giving you some recommendation, reach out to your HR, go for again a testing. So again, definitely this seems like the subject of the past, but we didn't stop here. If you see another example which I wanted to bring is the the contract tracing application. Again, leveraging the same data and by the strong foundation which SAP provides with respect to HR master or with respect to my variables, we have been able to deliver this contract tracing application to one of our large mining company. In that, we read the data from HR, again, based upon the variable contacts, we get the time and attendance records, we get the people availability based upon their work shift, who all are the people who are available in that location with those within that, say, 24 hours, 48 hours, or 7 days time frame. That is all, again, drop down option which we can pull together to give you a report. Again, very important report, leverage every day. Today also, when we are again we say almost like we are moving towards the 1/3 of the world is already vaccinated, but still this report is equally important because, as I mentioned, not every business have that liberty of working from home. There are people who are out in the field every day working on, and this kind of report helps. I would also like to take one more minute here, Nabil, that again, vaccination. Since I touched upon this topic, many of my customers now have been asking that the way we have our health declaration, can we have an integrated program on vaccination chart? Whether you are vaccinated or not, after vaccination, did you have any kind of any symptoms or any kind of an issue? Now, would you like, if I can have some kind of a web form and again marked it into my HR system and my SAP system within this ERP system, which can tell me that these 20 set of people are vaccinated, are good, and can be put together into a work shift. These 2 people got vaccinated last week, so this should not be planned for the next week. That is the kind of thing which we are, again, this is a prototype which is work in progress. I'm sure that by the time we connect next and meet some of our attendees, I think this would be a prototype which many of us would like to leverage. And this vaccination program, I think, is there to stay at least for next 3 to 6 months. I'm sure that as the things progress. So there are applications, there are this technology people have been asking for more and more. And I will say that the strong foundation and strong layer which SAP as an ERP provides, we are able to kind of leverage the power of integration with these different components and our business outcomes.
No, I think that was an interesting insight, Yogesh, and I really like the way we look at from an integrated perspective, which is, that example of if a person is vaccinated, whether he should be part of a shift or not part of a shift, because we cannot look in isolation the data, we have to look in terms of the business process. And that's where I think the whole sustainability and EHS getting embedded, getting integrated with the rest of the business processes become fairly important, because we are not just analyzing the data, that data has an impact on the way the business operations are run. So those are some good insights. I think we had some great discussion, and I will request the attendees, if they have any questions. There are a few questions that we have got on the chat. If there are any further questions, they can put down the chat. Let me take now some to summarize, and before I summarize, I'll ask each of our panelists to pick up 1 or 2 top points that they believe should be a takeaway for the attendees here. So Amar, if I start with you, we saw quite a few discussions happening, starting with the priorities, getting into the new age solutions, then the whole sustainability piece, then Yogesh landing it with some examples. So if there are 2 things or 3 things, or a couple of things that you want to just pick up and say that these are the 3 things that organization should look at if they are embarking on their journey on EHS and sustainability. So what would be those 2 things that you would highlight?
Amar, you're on mute.
Amar,
Yeah, sorry. Sorry,
okay,
I
go ahead.
yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, so yeah, some great inputs from my fellow panelists, and maybe I'll pick some of the things that they have shared already, and what is that my experience has been. I mean, first thing first, sustainability and EHS are no longer nice to have processes when it comes to running an organization. In fact, it is actually becoming a new source of a competitive advantage. And an example, if I can give you, is even if, let's say, there is an equal quality of product available in the market, but if it is produced in a much more sustainable manner, customer will actually buy the one which has much more sustainability aspects taken care of, because nowadays the words fly or get spread at the speed of a light, or even let's say much more quicker than what we used to have. So that's the first thing, and for that I think automation and the digitalization is the key, where how these processes can be automated, how these processes can be further augmented with digital technologies to free up the workforce, especially the EHS and the sustainability workforce, for doing much more productive work, and thus empower them, and finally it's a win-win situation for all of us. So I think these are the two key takeaways that I can maybe share or summarize.
Thanks, Amar. I think interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Krishan, what would be your thoughts on today's discussion?
Yeah, building on what.
Thank you so much, Amar. Krishan, what would be your thoughts on today's discussion?
Yeah, building on what Amar just said, it's not optional, and it's definitely a competitive advantage. That's what I see. Consumer behavior is shifting the market, but getting to the bottom of that, how can, and this is basically me as an HSE practitioner talking to you guys out there, you should not miss this opportunity, honestly. I mean, looking at this since 2 decades, I think EHS has a strong opportunity these days. We need to jump on this digital transformation, which is going on in the companies. EHS cannot be left behind. And by doing so, it's very important that EHS is part of the bigger story, what is going on in the company. So it needs to be, we talked a lot about integration and embedding it into the core processes. I think this is so crucial, and the benefits, what we have seen from Yogesh in his project, something like that cannot be achieved if EHS is managed and set up in a system isolated on an island. That will never work. And it's not just about copying data from left to right. It's having real process integration, handing over information, pushing EHS safety information proactively into maintenance processes, into processes which are at the core to really reach the frontline worker. That will make the difference, honestly. And the technology is available, and with the strong foundation SAP delivers, that can then really make the difference.
Sure. Thank you so much, Krishan. Yogesh, a few thoughts from your side?
Yeah, so being the last to provide those 2 cents, I'm not sure what different I can provide other than what Amar and Krishan mentioned. It is just rephrasing what they have said. In fact, I would like to say that EHS has been now a topic of discussion within the dining rooms, with your cab driver, with whom you sit, and kind of say within the grocery store. So EHS has come a long way from the kind of operations and tool top discussion which used to happen somewhere in the evening in between those 2 shift handovers to this it has reached to this level. The digital technologies are available there. People are taking advantage. If there is a competitive advantage between today and tomorrow, sustainability and again leveraging safety with digital solution is going to be key, because this data and digital technology will give us the power of quick analytics and smart decision making. I think I would like to leave this discussion, or maybe give my sense as that with those things available on the plate now, this year is going to be very, very high and crucial for many of us, including like us in IT world and manufacturing and organization for sure, to leverage the best of the technology and build a sustainable strategy to get this operational efficacy. The tagline what we have put in for our event together.
Thanks, Yogesh. I think at this point of time, I have few questions that I would like to take. So the first question is, we discussed about the sustainability reporting. Amar mentioned about ESG. Krishan, you also talked about the whole sustainability and the green line concept. So how is SAP gearing up? The question is that how SAP solutions are going to support these new requirements. Will we be coming with specific solutions for, let's say, ESG disclosures or GRI reporting? Are there any such kind of solutions in the pipeline and in the strategy of SAP?
Yes, if I can take that, there will be a new solution. In the past, we already had an application to support this kind of traditional sustainability reporting. And this year, we're going to launch a new application, which we also see as the next generation of sustainability and ESG reporting, as we look more at integrated reporting, bringing the non-financial and the financial reporting together. I think SAP is in a unique position there to do that. And the first release is planned for Q4 this year.
Okay. Thanks, Krishan, for these insights. Amar, if I come to you, I think there's a question about, and this is a very relevant question actually. See, there are many solutions available in the market when it comes to HSE compliance, and more often than not, there are point solutions available, which could be deployed quickly. Now, I will also seek Yogesh your view on this solution, but first let's get some perspective from Amar. So Amar, in this context, why would somebody should go with SAP EHS or sustainability solution? What are, in your view and in your experience with customers, are top reasons why SAP EHS solution is a better approach than going with the point solutions?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the overall requirement from an EHS standpoint, it cut across multiple domains, and it's important to have a seamless integration between the domains that we are talking about here. And if I give an example of, let's say, a contractor safety, which is a topic which is also being looked at by our customers, because majority of the workforce is actually a contractor workforce, and that means the overall safety performance is actually depending on these contractor workers or these contractor resources that they are deploying. Now, if you look at a process, it starts from placing an order to a vendor who will, let's say, supply these resources, and for that you have to place a purchase order, for an example. And before a purchase order, you need to have a demand in place that I'll be working on a project activity, or I'll be working on a maintenance activity or an overhauling activity. So from there it starts. Then there is a procurement which happens of the services. Then these contract labor gets onboarded. Before this contract labor gets onboarded, there is some verification which happens, like whether they have a required EPF account or not, or a PF account or not, whether they have the required skill sets to carry out this job or not, what is their physical fitness, and all those stuff. So once they enter into the operations after all of these checks, then an employer who is a principal employer, they have to take care of their health. They have to take care of, they are being trained on a regular basis, so that there is no mal-operation intentionally or unintentionally in the operation, which may result into the safety incidents or a near miss. And then finally, these contractor laborers would be involved in the processes, and there might be incidents of near misses or accidents. So they need to be tagged on those incidents, and basis this, you need to then let's say rate your vendor in terms of their EHS performance, and then you need to take the decision next time onwards that whether these This vendor can be given an award or not, or awarded an order or not, because in the past they have not been very compliant to our EHS standards. So if you look at this end-to-end process, it cut across multiple domains. And so I would suggest whoever is evaluating the EHS solution should look at in totality rather than in silos.
Fantastic, Amar. I think that's a great example of how EHS is embedded, especially in the contractor process. Yogesh, your perspective, I saw the example that you quoted was a complete end-to-end integration, integrated deployment of SAP EHS. Any other input from your side over and above what Amar has mentioned?
So this is the kind of a lovely topic which I like to speak for hours and hours, Nupil. Why SAP for EHS, right? Leaving the time enough for other question, I'll actually kind of talk about few words and phrases rather than going into the lengthy explanations. Power of integration, I'll say that's probably something which I'll pick it from what Amar mentioned. Scalability. The way we are able to scale this application from the foundation layer to a mature layer is something which is a beautiful architecture which has been laid together and can be done by the SAP principal and the partner together. Maturity of this solution. We are talking about, I think, the solution which is existing for past 25, 30 years now in the market, right? And it has scaled, it has come to a level meeting the different expectation from mature and the best of the customers which you can think from your industry domain. Take the top Fortune 500 companies, you'll see the top 100 companies of this would be using this system, and the solution, our solution has evolved along with their business requirement. So you are getting something which is being validated and being kind of implemented by some of the leaders. And last is the art of possibility. We have been able to, within the months of we saw an outwork, the way we all were able to kind of build together this program about this COVID declaration form, the contract tracing application, the IoT, the power of it, art of possibility is something which I will say is possible because you have all those foundation and nuggets in place. Taking those jigsaw pieces and shaping it to what you need is something which is possible, which can be made possible with only a mature solution like this. I hope that summarizes and that answers what you.
Very well. That's a very well articulated response, Yogesh. And in fact, there are two more questions which are related to what you presented. I wanted to just quickly seek responses. We are already at the top of the hour. So there is a question about the COVID solution or the contact tracing that you presented. Is it an SAP solution or a standalone? And then there is also a similar question on the case study that you presented, that the reports that you showed, are these reports available, standard, or it has to be developed as custom? So tell us quickly, your perspective and inputs on these two questions.
So I'll say that this is, I'll say we leverage the standard components what have been provided by SAP, and again, made those minor modification and changes into the code to get to those reports and dashboard. But most of the things were available as part of the standard. So nothing really comes, I'll say, is a huge customization or change effort, which I will say. And now these are available as an accelerator. So if there is something which has been built, an 45,000 audit checklist is available as a part of an accelerator, which we can provide to our customers at the go. Similarly, some of these dashboards, these COVID packages, these are all the small accelerators built on top of the standard SAP solution.
Okay, great. So we have one more question, and I think I would leave it to any one of you to answer. This is an interesting question. This talks about how much do organizations include the human aspect of sustainability? Example, human rights, inclusion, diversity. What have you experienced something like this? What is your perspective? I think any one of you, if you have a view over here, would you like to share some thoughts?
Dear fellow, if you allow me, I can jump on that. I see that, or we have a lot of engagement actually around that as well. I mean, in this discussion round, we were more focused on the tangible operational stuff of the sustainability side, but we do have this customers who also focus, and it's not either or. It's for most companies, it's just one part of sustainability, the human side, and we also have applications to tackle that. In our purchasing application, for example, you can pull in information to rank vendors or suppliers based on their ethical sourcing, sustainability ranking. So this is part of it as well. And it's very prominent. So it's not, you cannot say one is more important than the other. Companies tackle that equally.
Thanks. I think that's a very relevant view, Krishan. It is something which cannot be taken up separately, and I think companies have to tackle this with the overall sustainability framework. So we are at the top of the hour. So I would like now take a minute or two to summarize. I think we had an interesting discussion, great insights that came from everyone, and Krishan providing Yogesh complementing with his implementation experience, and Amar further adding with his engagement that he has driven, especially on some new age areas in HSE. So we all, I think one of the points that we all agree is that it's no longer, and I think Amar and Krishan, both of you said it's no longer that sustainability and EHS are nice to have topics. These are now very important and related discussions. They are a source of competitive advantage for companies. And there are some examples also which were highlighted over there. And it is in this respect that automation and digitization becomes an extremely important element to really automate this whole requirements, to bring down the manual intervention, to improve the compliance. And then on top of that, I think the most important element is that companies can decide the way they would like to go forward. We saw an example where everything was done in one single project. When Yogesh talked about medical devices manufacturer company going full-fledged EHS, but companies can also pick and choose, build the foundation first, and then add on other areas. However, I think the important topic that they need to take into consideration is the sustainability piece today. So we should no longer be looking at EHS in a concept of only complying to some safety related parameters, some incidents logs, or some safety observation, but we should look at holistically, and that's how we should try to look at from a roadmap point of view. So those were some great insights. My sincere thanks to all of you. I know Krishan, you joined us from Germany. It was only in Germany. Yogesh, you joined us from US, late in US, and then Amar, you joining and sharing your perspective. Thank you so much, Krishan, Yogesh, and Amar, for the insights that you provided and added richness to the discussion today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Panelists and very much for all the attendees for joining this with us. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and we hope you have a good day and stay safe.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
Indeed.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.